Speaking of safety, I actually, we have committed to quarterly reports, quarterly updates from our chief of police, and I've gotten several quarterly updates on crime statistics and things going on in Summit. And I've gotten several inquiries in the past week or so about specifics on crime statistics. So I've asked Chief Peters to be prepared to participate in my report.
Turn the TVs on.
They're on, Rosie. Look at that.
Thank God.
Touch the cord. Thank you. Through you, Council President. Thank you, Mayor. So I did want to just highlight a few statistics that we generally report to the FBI, the UCR Uniform Crime Reporting Statistics, as well as some other statistics that I feel are more specific to the City of Summit. I did a 4-year comparison. I went back to 2022. And annual statistics, I probably go back a little bit further, but this kind of gives us a snapshot of where we are today. One thing I do want to highlight regarding uniform crime statistics. I'm new to this position, okay? It didn't come with a handbook on how to generate stats, so I'm doing everything I can to make sure they're as accurate as possible. That being said, UCR statistics are imperfect. If you look up the Federal Bureau of Investigation, they say it right on their website. It's not a perfect snapshot for every municipality. There are a variety of elements that go into public safety, but this is the best that they can do to kind of compare apples to apples when we look across the board. That being said, I'll go through the stats and then I'll kind of talk about how some of them could be a little bit skewed, but again, we're doing pretty good. So right out of the gate, we have violent crime. That's made up of 4 different categories. We have robbery. We have, I don't think I can make it any, can I make it any bigger?
There you go.
How's that, better? Look at that, 43 years old, I still got it. Violent crime, robbery, aggravated assault, rape/attempted rape, and homicide. So obviously we haven't any homicides in town, you guys would know about that. What we typically trend at this point in the game is usually anywhere between 1 to 2 robberies, 1 to 2, maybe a little bit more aggravated assaults, and the same with rape and attempted rape. Thank God we haven't dealt with the other category. That being said, in analyzing this violent crime category on the actual UCR report, I am seeing quite a bit of an uptake in the attempted rape category. Everything else seems to kind of fall in line with previous stats. That being said, in doing an additional analysis, it looks as if 6 out of the 8 incidents came from facilities in town that have a duty to report sexual assault allegations. The reason I say that is because I just want to give people a peace of mind to say that although our attempted rape numbers are up, it's not like we have a serial rapist and everybody's running around town sexually assaulting people. These happen in a confined area. And then we'll talk about the statistics as well when I go over the issues I see with UCR stats. That being said, assaults, which is a simple assault, aggravated assault is included in violent crime, are trending downwards, but in comparison to 2022, we're kind of on par with that. Burglaries, these are burglaries to homes and businesses. Again, trending a little bit downwards, but kind of on par with 2022. We have seen an ongoing decrease in larceny, which is theft, and then motor vehicle theft as well, which I am encouraged about. The one thing I do want to highlight as well on the motor vehicle theft is 5 of those thefts out of the 9 were actually from dealerships. So they weren't from residences, they weren't from houses. And we have to date had 9 arrests on those 11 motor vehicle thefts. So our detective bureau is doing a great job. I couldn't give them more accolades. They're doing a phenomenal job. Actually, I walked by the detective, I'm a little jealous. They're back there having a great time. All that these guys love, like all great friends. They do a really good job. They motivate each other. Burglaries and attempted burglaries to motor vehicles, as we can see, that's been progressively trending downwards, which I think is a positive statistic to highlight. Calls for service. I was actually pretty blown away the fact that between 2023 and 2025, year to date, I mean, we tend to do 45 to 50,000 calls for service. We're only off by 3 to date for those 2 years. But again, busier than we were historically. If you look back, we do document more things now. Documentation is key, right? There's no, if you check a school at 11 o'clock and then again at 2, and then and then you don't document it, and then the next morning we have criminal mischief or somebody spray paints it. Again, we try to document everything so this way we have somewhat of a trail, God forbid something happens. And then traffic enforcement. As you can see, we're out there. I know this is probably not the most popular statistic when it comes to community outreach, but we are writing tickets, moving and parking, and we're stopping a lot more cars. You know, we're going to get into it when we talk about the Tatlock neighborhood, but it comes down to education, enforcement, and engineering. Not all of our stops, as you can see, 5,610 motor vehicle stops resulted in 1,271. So we're not writing everyone tickets. For the most part, we're educating people. We're pulling them over, advising them of their violations. And, as long as their driving history looks good, their record looks good, they're pretty much cut loose. That being said, there are situations that involve pedestrian, cell phones, some things we just can't overlook, and tickets do need to be written. It's an unfortunate situation. It's one of the parts of the job that I never like doing, but it's something that needs to get done to make sure that people are abiding by the laws of the road. But I am encouraged by these numbers because it shows that our officers are out there, they're doing their job, and they're trying to keep doing everything they can to keep everyone safe. So circling back around to the UCR statistics, like I said before, it's an imperfect snapshot of a moment in time. Few reasons that is. Okay, so we have what's called CFS codes. So when somebody calls the police department and speaks to dispatch, say, for example, they have a noise complaint at a neighbor's house, the dispatch will take that call as a noise complaint. They'll enter a CFS code for a noise complaint. We then go and investigate. We may get there, and that noise complaint may actually be a domestic disturbance that results in an arrest for an assault and a temporary restraining order and everything else that goes with that. It is then at the responsibility of the reporting officer who does the report to change that CFS code from the initial noise complaint and close it out to the domestic violence complaint in which we finalize that report. That can be done almost immediately, which happens a lot of times with calls that patrol take on a daily basis, like a noise complaint that results into a domestic, but sometimes those CFS codes could change a month later, 3 months later, based on the carrying out of the investigation from our detective bureau. So something that might generate a statistic on the UCR today might not necessarily be the same statistic 2 months from now. In addition, we often encounter initial allegations with no further cooperation from victims, which results in the case being closed with what we call exceptional means. The FBI takes victim statements as their word from the initial report, even if they don't follow up with the investigation or cooperate with us for another statement. So again, that could skew our UCR data because we could get an allegation of an attempted rape, and then we reach out to the victim. The victim does not want to cooperate for whatever reason. There are no charges that are being filed because we don't have a cooperating victim. And then ultimately that will get closed out as an attempted rape without a complete investigation. So that's one of the things that also could kind of skew these numbers. In addition, we've seen this before. Actually, at my mid-year numbers, I got called out by a resident because my motor vehicle thefts were not 100% accurate. Again, I'm new to this. They don't give you a UCR reporting class when you get chief. It's not something like Chief Zagorski called me in and was like, here, let me teach you everything you need to know the next 48 hours before I retire. So the UCR stats, the way it works is if we have a stolen car from a residence, which we've had, but also that was tied to a burglary to that residence to get the key fobs. That case is going to get closed out at the most severe charge, which would be the burglary. So when I run the UCR stat and it shows me motor vehicle thefts, which it does on this report, and I could submit to you, Rosie, for the record, it'll show less amount of motor vehicle thefts because 2 of them were actually home burglaries that resulted in motor vehicle thefts. So they actually get closed out as burglaries, not motor vehicle thefts. So it's incumbent on us and the Detective Bureau to have accurate record keeping inside our own management system, separate from the UCR management system. In addition, we see this a lot with sexual assault allegations. There's a delay in reporting. We understand that a lot of these events are traumatic. So oftentimes they involve juveniles, and they're not reported for years later, which could skew the stats. An assault can occur in 2020, 2021, then it's reported in 2025, and that's when the stat gets recorded. And lastly, Summit Police Department did 48,952 calls for service, while the men and women of the police department that were just in here do a very good job at making sure the CFS codes are as accurate as possible. I would be, I wouldn't be 100% truthful if I said we were perfect all the time. Out of the 49,000 calls roughly, there are a few cases, and it used to drive the old captains crazy if the CFS code wasn't right. We have checks and balances, but there are a few that every once in a while at the end of the year you might have a small percentage, a margin of error where the CFS code might not be 100% accurate because it just wasn't closed out properly. So that's the story, and I'm sticking to it unless anybody has any questions. Open to questions, analysis.
Council President.
Anything else?
Yes, please.
Councilman Boyer?
So, Chief, we have the hospital, we have Fair Oaks, some other facilities in town. How many of these violent crimes and assaults occur there?
Aggravated assaults to date, we're looking at, I don't think any of the aggravated assaults. I think actually, well, no, I'm not, I will be mistaken. So again, to date, the violent crime, we are at 16. Of that, we have 0 homicides. We had 7 attempted rape allegations. We had 2 robberies. I think you're intimately familiar with one of those. And we had 2 aggravated assaults to date. I believe one of those aggravated assaults did occur at one of the facilities in town.
And there's 2 separate categories, right? Violent crime and simple assaults.
Yep.
So the simple assaults, and how many of those?
A lot of those are actually tied to domestic disturbances, which is why we don't do, so again, when we talk about notifications to the public, we deal with a lot of issues with the police department. We go in people's houses. Sometimes we see the worst of the worst. So there are certain statistics that while we do try to be as transparent as possible, we also need to take into account the privacy of someone's home. We've seen an uptick in mental, I talked about this when the previous stats were put out. We have seen an uptick in mental health issues. We've seen an uptick in domestic violence. And unfortunately, we've actually seen an uptick this year in suicide. That's what, our guys see on a daily basis, our guys and gals, they see that they're on the front lines, they see this stuff, it is traumatic. But oftentimes I get inquiries from people in the neighborhood, hey, what's going on at my neighbor's house? There's 3 or 4 police cars, and sometimes it's just, unfortunately, it's not really anybody's business. I can tell you, if there is a threat to the public, if we're looking for someone, if there's something that the public needs to know, the information's going out. I was on my way we talked about this in the safety meeting. I was on my way to Wegmans last Sunday to just go food shopping, and we had a missing juvenile that went out. Within a matter of seconds, I'm on the phone with the supervisor. We're getting that information out, and it was on social media, and Nixles were out almost immediately. And I live in Monmouth County. And there's checks and balances. I'm the primary. We have alternates. We have several lines of communication to make sure that the frontline supervisors, who are often dealing with the problems at hand in front of them, right? So their primary responsibility is to handle the problem. It's right in front of them, but also make notification to us in case we need the public's help in finding someone who's missing, or in case we need the public's help in just locating a suspect, or just advising them, hey, this is what we just had. We just had a criminal attempt to a motor vehicle. Everybody be vigilant. Everybody keep your eyes on your Ring cameras, keep your eyes on your vehicles, lock your cars. And we're doing it. But I do want to be mindful of people's privacy. Do want to be mindful that some of these statistics are a reflection of domestic violence. They are a reflection of stuff that happens in the privacy of people's homes. And we try to respect that as best we can.
Thank you, Chief. And last question, because I'd like the residents to really understand this. When we look at violent crimes and assaults, they are not typically happening on our streets. Our streets are safe. There is no proactive way to stop domestic violence or assaults that happen in hospitals or facilities that have people with mental health issues. But our streets are safe. These statistics do not reflect what's happening.
And that's exactly what it says actually on the FBI's website when you
Thank
go to
you.
the uniform crime reporting, that these statistics are imperfect. However, they're the best we got at the time because you do have to consider other factors. I don't want to talk about any other municipalities, but there's municipalities that might have a shopping mall in there. You're going to see an increase in thefts in those municipalities because that's a direct reflection of what happens at shopping malls. And to your point, we have all different types of facilities in town that could drive numbers one way or another.
So parents, it's okay if you still send your kids to town to get candy and stuff. It's sweet nothings. It's all good. All right.
I don't know if the dentist would approve of that, but
Any other comments or questions for the chief? Councilman Smallwood.
Thank you, Council President. Chief, thank you very much for your report. Again, could you just go over maybe even just some of the major categories of violent crime?
yeah, so it's homicide, robbery, aggravated assault, and rape/attempted rape. So those are the 4 categories that go into violent crime.
Okay.
And like I said, the anomaly, I saw the number go up, and I was intrigued. And the number that's I see at least for 2025 that's driving this number higher than usual is the attempted rape.
And those 16 that we have so far, are those typically within the home?
Well, like I said, with allegations of rape, 6 out of 8 came from institutions in town that have a duty to report.
Okay.
Thank you.
Councilwoman Toth.
Thank you, Council President. Thank you, Chief. I know we're all happy to see the numbers of car thefts and attempted car thefts and all that going down. I know the department has been involved for some time with county-wide task forces. Are we seeing this throughout the area?
Yes, I believe so. I
okay.
believe I think the coordinated effort among not only local stakeholders but county, state, federal authorities coming together. Information sharing is huge. Technology is huge. You know, with the license plate readers, the state police got on board, and now we have access to, you know, license plate information from all different jurisdictions. So the fact that we're sharing information, we're working together, there's regional task force, we participate in those task force. Anytime anybody reaches out for an officer to participate in a task force, we send them. We do what we can because at the end of the day, we've benefited from that. I think the first deployment for the Union County Task Force for major crimes was in Summit because we were in the midst of a major stolen car theft ring. So, but yeah, to your point, I do feel as if crime statistics across the board are trending in that direction, and it's encouraging.
Yeah.
I do think it's encouraging, and I think technology plays a big part. I think information sharing plays a big part. I think boots on the ground. I think there's a variety of factors that go into that.
Thank you.
Other comments? Councilman Pulowski.
So how many, how many of the stolen cars did we retrieve?
Almost all of them, I think. I'd have to pull the spreadsheet, which I don't have on this computer, but I'd say the vast majority. I mean, you just saw the two guys that got the awards for down in Newark. That's not something we take lightly. If a vehicle's taken from a residence or even a dealership here in town, you know, the full force of the Detective Bureau is usually in the areas where we tend to find these vehicles, whether they're getting cooled off or they're staged or, you know, waiting to go on a container overseas. So we do recover the vast majority of them. To date, I don't know. Out of the 11, if I had to take a guess, I'd say 8 were recovered. Again, we had 9 arrests, so you know, they're out there. One of the things, and we do the same thing with criminal mischief. If somebody spray paints the side of a building, we get it cleaned up the next day. It's the broken windows theory. If every time you come to Summit, not only are you met with police resistance because our notifications through the technology we've invested in, but you steal a car and the next day that car's back on the flatbed and it's back up at Summit, eventually, again, we're not solving the world's problems here, and I certainly don't want to invite crime into any other jurisdiction, but they're going to stop coming to Summit if every time they steal a car, it gets scooped back up. What benefit did they get? They're running a possible second or third degree charge for 12 hours and then the car's gone. So we don't take that lightly. I do know there are other police departments that don't go down into these areas in Essex County due to, you know, we've had officers encounter life-threatening experiences while processing in a car in Essex County. So and we just had 2 officers nearly die in a fire. I mean, we're out there. We're not going to sit back and just let this happen. So every time a car does get stolen, we're actively looking for it. We're actively tracking. We are dealing with a criminal element that knows how to remove these trackers. They know where to hide it. So it is a little bit of a game of cat and mouse. We were on the tail of that BMW when they came across the house fire that afternoon, which has since been recovered, by the way.
So I would thank you for empowering our officers to go and do that, even though not every municipality does. And in addition to Officers Garita and Syker, that empowerment, you know, allowed them to save a woman and her child. So well done.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
That's it.
Thank you.
Anything
Yeah,
else?
no,
Comments?
one other thing I do want you to speak to, if
Yeah,
we have
please.
time, is.
I had the over under at 10 o'clock. I think I'm going to lose.
Oh, boy. Is just the measures that you guys have implemented around the Tatlock neighborhood, because I've gotten some good feedback about the first home football game this past weekend, and I just wanted to kind of air
Yeah,
some
so
of
that was interesting getting sworn in as the new chief, like the week of our lacrosse game making the finals and a complete chaos down at I wouldn't call it chaos, but you know, controlled chaos down at Tatlock Field in the spring. So we've heard the residents. We understand that there are some safety concerns from residents, whether it be the size of the roadway, whether it be the parking, the crosswalks, stop signs. So we're approaching it the same way we approach most traffic problems, the 3 E's, right? Education, enforcement, and engineering, right? So education, we've been putting out a lot of messaging. I'm sure you guys follow us on social media. You've getting the Nixles the other day. Working with the Board of Education and Allison Flockhart, she's been great. Putting notifications out to parents, putting notifications out to opposing jurisdictions and high schools to let them know that the police will be out. We are enforcing parking, zero discretion. In addition to that, you know, that messaging, I sat down with Allison and Lieutenant Daly of our Traffic Safety Bureau, and we came up with a plan for drop-off pickup for the buses that we feel is safe. And then in the interim, we're posting temporary no parking signs, specifically in the areas that have drew some concern from the residents, you know, within 25 feet of a crosswalk, within 50 feet of a stop sign, on roads that are narrow. So I do apologize on behalf of the police department that some of these no parking signs are still out there. They're only a temporary fix. You know, on the safety committee, we're looking for permanent solutions because at the end of the day, putting no parking signs up, taking them back, putting them out, those are temporary solutions, right? So we're looking for permanent solutions. But in the interim, we understand that these are safety concerns, so we're leaving them out there for now. So I would expect to see the temporary no parking signs. Like I said, on the enforcement aspect, we are out there. Officers are working security. We have other officers patrol the neighborhoods, writing parking tickets. I think on Saturday's game, I don't want to, overdo it, but I think we wrote north of 22, 25 tickets. And again, that's not what we want to do. We don't want a parent or a family to be leaving a game where their child just had the game of their life and show up to the parking ticket on their windshield. Compliments of the Selma Police Department. Do not want to do that. But at the end of the day, these residents have the right to have a safe neighborhood, and we need to make sure that's enforced. And then again, we'll continue to work with the engineering department to make sure that the measurements on the roads are safe and that certain signage or maybe restriping of the roads can accommodate or at least paint a clearer picture on where you can and cannot park. And then once those permanent solutions are put into place, we can remove all the ugly no parking signs and kind of hopefully get back to business as usual. But I'm always open to suggestions. Again, I don't consider myself an expert on anything, but I do like to put the work in, and I'm happy to hear people's recommendations. And again, being as transparent as possible, we're trying to present these ideas to the residents to make sure that they're okay with them before we implement anything. And again, we're working with engineering on that as well.
Chief.
Thank you.
Yes, Councilman Boyer.
Last thing, because I think the taxpayers want to know this, because we just got 2 new officers,
Yep.
right? Well, we have
Well, we're
a
in the
bunch of
process-
we have a bunch of new officers.
We're in the
We have
process of
2
hiring
from
two
last
more.
year, right? And we're in the process of hiring 2 more. Can you just talk about the new officers that we just hired throughout the year? Because I think there's 5 or 6 new officers.
We have quite a few officers.
And
Yes,
then the impact of the 2 new positions that you have on your force.
So again, we have some flexibility now that we have the additional staffing. An old school mentality might be just to put them into patrol, more rubber on the road. We are patrolling north of 80 miles of roadway at any given time, believe it or not, even though we're 6 square miles, 80 miles of roadway. I'd rather not go public with how many officers are on the road at any given time, but we are looking to create new positions. We did one already. It's a hybrid position. The officer lives in town, so he has access to all different types of uniforms. So the hybrid position essentially can backfill patrol if we need it for overtime. If not, he can assist the community policing unit, the detective bureau, and if all else fails and everything's kind of running smoothly, we put the hybrid officer in the central business district, and we make sure that pedestrian safety and parking and everything else is being enforced. So we're looking to expand upon that unit and do another hybrid officer, and then also add a second officer into the traffic bureau, because traffic is obviously one of our main concerns.
Councilman Pulaski.
One follow-up on the parking down at Tatlock during football games. In the past, we have asked Matt DeFonso, who does all the announcing, I think he still does.
I think they did that this past game, yep.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
they
that's.
did. Yep, that's a
Okay,
part of the
great.
communication. So we're doing that as well.
And so he knew what I was going to say, but what I was going to say was that we make announcements during the game. If you're illegally parked, please go move your car. You
Yep.
will be ticketed.
And you forgot to mention the mobile billboard on the.
Oh, yeah, the mobile billboard that's on the corner of Butler and Morris, which possibly working with the Board of Ed, maybe getting a permanent sign there.
Great.
Councilwoman Camelson.
Thank you. Thank you, Chief Peters, for all of your work. I've definitely seen an improvement, so thank you. We
I'm happy to hear
appreciate it. I just wanted to expand on something a little bit. You said, that you've heard the residents and they deserve a safe neighborhood, and I agree with that. It's not just the residents that live there, though. It's also the spectators and their safety, because
course.
residents identify that it's not just the people who live there. We see who's walking in the middle of the street, who's trying to cross the street. We witness cars almost, run into each other head on when cars are parked on the both sides. So I just wanted to point out that it's in the best interest of everyone, including the
yep, of course.
spectators.
Yep.
And that's, it's concern for residents and for spectators. Thank you.
Yep.
Just one final question.
Councilwoman Hamlet.
Thanks, Council President. In regards to the buses, do we have a formal memo put out to the Board of Ed that they are to direct the buses to go a certain route?
Allison Flockhart generated instructional guidance to all opposing schools that are coming in on what the current process is, which is a loading and unloading zone on Butler, where we've coned off areas. One of the issues with that from what was relayed to me, was the buses would drop off on Butler Parkway. They would then go stage either at the high school or Washington School. And when they came back, those parking spots were then since filled because it was a parking area. And that, you know, then teams tended to be loading on the buses while the bus was idle in the middle of the road. So, again, a temporary fix for now. We're working on permanent solutions, was to just cone off an area big enough for 2 or 3 buses. Bus drop off, pickup only. They're doing the same thing. They're dropping off. They're going up to the high school, and that's the instructions that she's giving all the opposing schools that come into town. So yeah, I have access to that. I can send it to council so you guys can take a look at it. But Allison did a great job on putting that out there, and she also reiterated the fact that we will be enforcing with very little discretion. So, cool.
One quick comment. So, Chief, from what you guys have learned from this, are there any things that you are planning to tweak for the next home game?
So for the next home game, one of the things that we didn't do this past time was we didn't reinforce current no parking signs. There are no parking signs between the entrance to Tatlock and the little turnaround at Washington School before Morris Avenue. They're there. I don't know why people don't see them, but I talked to Sergeant Brunetto in real time on Saturday, and he's like, hey, we're out here, we're moving cars, and more cars are parking. So we're going to double down. I think on Aubrey as well, there's some no parking signs that probably could use some extra reinforcement. But again, when we talk about the 3 E's, we'll work with engineering to make sure that whatever signs are up there, I know one of the signs needs to be either replaced or repainted. So, you know, we'll be doing that as well. And then I think if the first game went okay, we'll continue as on course and go from there.
Great, thank you.
Appreciate you guys. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you, Chief.